Hi friends, welcome to another episode of Safety Insight. My name is Nelson. I'm a health advocate. I trust all of this episode has been striking a chord in your mind to work safely. Today, we're going to look at stories of another set of losers. And as I said, every time we tell the stories, everybody's a loser. The employer or the employee, everybody loses. And today we're looking at two losers. Felix and his company, Michael Abraka Nigeria Limited. You know, in every workplace, safety is supposed to be the first line of defense. When that line of defense fails, bad things happen. There are moments when routine meets risk. For Felix, that moment came on the 20th of October 2015, while he was working as a dock worker for Michael Abraka Nigeria Limited. It was a day just like any other, filled with movement, labor, and the pressure to get the job done. In a moment of seconds, everything changed. Felix was involved with offloading sugar at the dock. It was a physically demanding job, the kind that required focus, balance, and proper safety support. At some point in the job, he needed to use a ladder. Then came the slip. He suddenly lost his footing and landed on the hatch and suffered a compound fracture at his right ankle. What had begun as just any other day had turned into a painful, life-altering injury. And the thing about injuries like this, it's not just a physical wound. It is the pain, the fear, the destruction of livelihood, the uncertainties, all at once. For the worker, it means hospital visits, reduced mobility, loss of income, and the stress about what comes next. For the employer, it should have been a moment for urgent responsibility, report the accident, support the injured worker, and ensure all compensation processes are handled quickly and properly. For Felix, however, the story was very different. After the accident, the question was not about what happened to Felix, but how did the company respond? So, under the Nigerian Employers' Compensation Act, there are two things that arises when a worker gets injured on the job. The employer is expected to document the incident and forward the necessary papers of the injured worker so that he can be compensated. In Felix's case, that process was not handled with care. Felix took the matter to the National Industrial Court of Nigeria, seeking for justice. He sought compensation for what he had suffered, including the pain of the injury and the hardship that followed. He sought several forms of relief, including 20 million for principal sum, another 15 million for damage of negligence in failing to report the process to NSITF, another 5 million for general damages for financial hardship and socio-economic discomfort, and 1 million for, he was seeking about 41 million as compensation. As you would expect, the company tried to defend itself by suggesting that the delay in processing the claim was linked to treatment and document issues. But the court was not convinced. The judge held that many of the documents needed for the claim were within the employer's reach, and that there was no good reason for the delay. In the court's view, the employer has failed in its duty of responsibility after the accident.